Welcome back, everybody, to another week of RT Talk, or another episode of RT Talk, now that we do this intermittently. But I am Michael Poole, and who is the man in flannel that I am looking at on my camera?
It is me, Doug Kirkwood Jr.
Well, welcome back, Doug. Welcome back, everybody. So this week on the show, this was not the top of the list that I was going to talk about before, but as the week has progressed, this I feel like has become the main story. But someone just broke under my desk.
I heard that. I don't know what that was.
That scared me. But as the week has progressed, I feel like this has become the biggest topic now. But basically, the whole ice storm snow and ice storm that Austin is experiencing, and sort of the bizarre backlash that Rooster Teeth is getting because of it.
I didn't see they were getting hate. I saw they postponed some stuff.
Yeah, well, obviously we'll get into it in a second, but we're going to talk about this was going to be the initial, like, our big topic, but RTX, our traditional RTX being canceled. A stream that's happened with Fiona and Megan Thee Stallion, or The Stallion, the somewhat comedic, funny. I don't even know. I don't even have any more words to describe it. But Lawrence and Bruce's new show, and that they're putting on together, which again we'll get into, a new animated show that Rooster Teeth is making for HBO Max. And I never imagined that I would have to say this to you for this show, but apparently we have to talk about lasagna as well. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, so for anyone who isn't aware, I would imagine if you're a Rooster Teeth fan, you probably are aware, because this is, as Doug said, it affected some of the releases and things that were happening. But Austin, and I mean Texas in general, was hit by a snowstorm, which I think all of us, a lot of people were in the U.S.
Yeah,
obviously
most of the country was probably affected.
Large swaths, many states were hit by it, and maybe even some provinces in Canada.
Many states were not prepared for snow.
Well, I was gonna say let me go through like some of our main details of it.
Okay.
Like Doug said, yeah, places aren't prepared. So, specifically in Austin, and what the people at Rooster Teeth have been dealing with, or at least certain people have been, is they've lost power, they've lost gas, and they lost water in some cases. Now, this obviously, it's kind of a twofer, because if they were still in studio, they may have backups and stuff and would be able to continue work at like a low level. But since everyone's working from home, or yeah, absolutely be comfortable. Possibly, who knows? I don't know what their power system is or anything. But I just know every place that I've worked. I mean, it's an old airport hangar. I know any place I worked at that was like a big warehouse, we always had backup generators and everything else. So
right, for businesses, right.
So theoretically they could have been, but regardless, since they are working from home because of quarantine and COVID and everything, this has drastically affected the releases of a lot of things like RWBY, or I guess in terms of the negativity that they've received, it seems related to RWBY mostly, but they postponed the episode release. But also,
week, right?
I think I would assume it's probably at least a week. I don't know, since it's kind of up in the air when they'll get power and everything back.
True.
I know that I think by now, as of recording, I think certain people have seen some of their either water or heat, or gas rather, or electricity, something. I think some people have seen some of it come back, but I forget who it was. Someone posted a photo. I want to say it was Eddie Rivas. I don't know how to say his name properly, but I want to say it was him that posted a photo on Twitter of saying like, "Oh, this is my water right now," and it was just like this cloudy white, just pool inside of like a pan or something like that. I have to look it up. I'll when people who are watching this on YouTube, I'll have found it and they'll be seeing it, but I can't remember exactly who it was or anything right now.
I just remember seeing Chris's tweet, like he walked 2 miles to a gas station to find anything, and there wasn't anything but like maybe just junk food or something. I forget, because we know somebody from our hometown who's down there, who's a cameraman for Man vs. Foods. I'm also following him probably more closely because we know him personally.
I honestly don't even know who you're talking about.
Doug Michaels.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen. I'm surprised because I haven't seen him post. I haven't seen his post on anything.
Well, he's posting all the time because he's in a hotel with nothing.
Oh yeah, haven't even seen that. This week has really flown by for me, so I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I missed. But yeah, so I would say, because I didn't actually go through and document all the times I've seen people kind of giving them shit about it, but it's popped up on Twitter a lot, or mostly, because as Doug said, they are not prepared for this. In fact, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it. If you're only listening to this, you'll have to find the video post of this. But even Miles shared a photo of him breaking ice off of his roof so that they could boil it, because they're also under a boil water advisory.
Yeah.
And now, granted, that's that's water on their roof, so you should boil it anyway. But I think his water was off anyway. But they were basically harvesting ice in order to boil it so that it was drinkable and usable. So it's a very, it's a pretty serious situation. The first, because I was surprised by this. I was doing something and Renee said, "Did you see the shit that people are giving like Rooster Teeth?" And I think in the case she was talking about was Barbara for not having power or anything. I was like, "What?" And I went on and I went through and I was scrolling, and there was the one conversation, and you could find on Twitter several like replies from, say, like Barbara or Carrie, or I've seen a couple people who have replied to some of these people, but the one thread that I read through was like someone saying, well, it's funny because one person was saying that there's people who are because there's always that person who someone's suffering isn't enough. Like if you're going through something bad, they go like, "Oh, boo-hoo, people sleep on the streets every night," and it's like, okay, that doesn't make my thing good though. It's like,
right.
It's like there's always a person who has to tell you that remind you that, hey, there's worse travesties that happen in the world. It's like, yeah, I understand. I'm not saying that everyone needs to stop what they're doing and care about me. I'm just saying, and plus, what was even crazier about it is I think this came after a message of Barbara telling people like to stay safe and to stay warm, and like say, or like talking about some tips and stuff of like how to keep warm during this time. And it was like, that was like their reply to it of, there's people that sleep on the streets every night and you're complaining about a little bit of snow. And she's like, people don't have power. Like, we don't have heat. It's like
these unlivable conditions where literally, I guess they're trapped inside their houses or apartments because they're like, we can't go outside.
They can't go anywhere because the roads aren't clear. They can't, staying inside the house is obviously the warmest bet, but it's still, there's nothing. Like they have nothing to even keep them warm or anything like that. Not to mention, as I was thinking about too, is like when you live in a warmer climate, it's less likely. Like if we lost our heat, I'm looking at my door, which has 55 sweatshirts on it. I have 2 jackets for the winter. I have, I think, 4 hats. I have my boots. I have tons of warm socks. We live in a colder area. Again, we don't live in the coldest area. We don't need those same people coming after us saying, yeah, well, it gets down to -50 here. I understand it gets colder in different places. Right now, I think I'll give you a live temperature of what we're dealing with right now.
Mine says 25.
So yeah, 25 is what I have too. And for our metric people, that is -4 degrees Celsius. So that's what we're dealing with right now, mid-February. It's been colder than that. 25 has been kind of the average this year, but it's not foreign to us to get to single-digit Fahrenheit. So we deal with the cold here, but it's like I have stuff to be ready for that. But if you live in a climate where your winters are like, 50 degrees, you might not have as much warm things on hand to be prepared for something like this.
No.
So obviously it's a much different situation, and that was I forget. I think it was it wasn't Barbara that replied to it, but there was someone else who replied like defending her, saying, "Hey, I live in Austin, and inside my house right now, it's between like 30 and 40 degrees inside my house." And the person's reply was, "Big deal. That's the average temperature where I live in the UK or in England or something." And it's like, Do you not understand? Yeah, it's like, do you not understand that the average temperature outside is not the temperature you experience inside? Like, is that a concept you don't like? That like, do you think when it's 40 degrees inside your house is what 40 degrees feels like? Like, I don't understand.
No,
I don't understand even that argument.
your inside your house isn't almost freezing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And look, this happens, I don't know, maybe once a year, once every 2 years or something, where a state that doesn't typically get snow will get hit with snow, and then there'll be a story about how like all work was canceled, everything like was shut down, and it's inevitable that people who live in snow, like people who live around us or whatever, will constantly like that'll be like a joke that they'll tell for like that day of like laughing at the people who got a little bit of snow and couldn't handle it. And it's very seldomly that I would say that is actually like justified or makes sense. Like there's times where they get like a tenth of an inch of snow. It's like, okay, like that's not really something to freak out over. Your car will easily handle that. And I'm not saying that someone got like a tenth of an inch and it shut down an entire city, but it's just like sometimes they get like a real small amount, and then there's some sort of overreaction in some way. That, and to be fair too, that we're not even exempt from that, because I don't know how many times I'm driving to work and there's people in front of me going like 10 miles an hour, and it's like the road is completely clear. It's bone dry from all the salt they put on it. Will you go, please?
Well, what about the black ice, man? The black ice is what actually gets you.
It does, but there's, in my experience, black ice is not like, I have not encountered black ice that often, and there's a time period after the roads have been salted where it's like the salt like dehydrates the road, and so like it'll be, I don't know how long after it snows, and the road will be literally like bone dry. Like it is completely dry. You can see like the white haze on it from the salt, but there's not even there's no like hydration left on it, and there's no water's left on the road. Right. It's just the salt just destroys it basically. So it's like that's what I mean. Like there's people that always will drive slower in, you know, the rain or in snow when it's like you're going way slower than you need to. I'm not saying, hey, let's go the speed limit, but we're okay. Like this is not a bad snowstorm. So it does happen everywhere, but it does become the butt of a joke to people who have like, I don't know, like cold weather elitism about it. Like, we deal with it every year. Like it makes them feel tough or something. And so like, again, that those stories have existed, but I think it's very seldom where it's actually like, oh, that is pretty like kind of silly that happened with this little amount of snow. This is definitely not the case where snow and ice have like taken down their power grid, the water, their gas. Like it's a much different situation. And the biggest thing and why this is like, most of the time when this story happens and like, you know, I don't know, Mississippi will get hit with snow or something like that, and things get like shut down, is that there is no level of preparedness to deal with a snow or ice storm. For us, we got hit, like we talked about out in the grapes even, is that we got hit with snow. We were predicted to get 6 to 9 inches of snow, and I don't know about you, we didn't get that where I live. But
no, we got maybe a couple inches, but it was fine.
But for in our case, if there was no preparedness or anything like that, that would have shut. If we actually got 6 to 9 inches or even a couple inches, that would have been an issue for getting for living for the next couple of days. If that hit and there was nothing that was being cleared. But in our case, since we live in an area that we get snow, and it's been snowing for how many weeks now, it's like. We were supposed to get hit with snow at like 1 a.m. At like 10 p.m. salt trucks were going down my road, and they're dropping salt on the road to just be ready for it. So it's like there's so many things that happen before the snow even hits, and then once it hits, they're out there continuing to salt with their plows, clearing the road as much as they can. And so it's like it's a completely different scenario when it's like I don't even know what to compare it to for us that like Texas deals with, but it's just like I don't know, I guess it's like if we got hit with like a pretty serious earthquake compared to someone that lives in California. Like if they're,
yeah,
and that might even be too extreme or it's not like there's an earthquake every like week and a half in California, but it's still like they're used to dealing with something along those lines, so they won't freak out as much as opposed to us, who we have nothing, like we don't have any buildings that are built for like for earthquakes, or even if you go to like hurricane season on like the coast and everything on like the east or like southeast coast, it's like, yeah, their buildings are built or some of them are supposed to be like hurricane force winds and all that. It's like they have a much different perspective on tropical storms and hurricanes than if we got hit here somehow. I know geographically it doesn't make any sense, but it's my house would be destroyed if a hurricane hit, basically is what I'm saying.
Right. But yeah, we're not prepared for anything else but like high winds and snow.
Yeah, pretty much. And the occasional tornado, but even that doesn't hit like that. That's not very frequent here. It's I don't think there's. I mean, they've definitely happened. I don't think we've had very many that touch down, and it's usually just for like a couple seconds and it goes away. But I mean, it's just like when you're dealing with a place that is not used to dealing with this kind of stuff, they're just not ready for it. They're not equipped to handle it, and it's like it takes time for them to actually, either get things clear or to get the resources or people together to actually clear roads and make things working again. Now, I know there's a whole controversy surrounding the apparently like the grid system that they have, or like their I don't know I can't think of the better name for it, but like the way their power is run and has been operating, it's apparently a pretty, I guess, like shitty way from what I've heard, but I have not looked into it at all. I have no.
Well, they're not connected into the rest of us.
Yeah, it's like I've just seen people kind of talking about how it's bullshit, but I didn't actually read into what they were talking about. So I just know people are upset about that too. But this is that aside, the reality, and like relating to Rooster Teeth again, the reality is that people who are working from home have lost heat, power, and water. I'm just gonna let you know now. If I lose those three things, we're not doing this podcast because I can't. And it's just like it's so strange to me that people. It's just like it really is. There's nothing that a group of people online will not find you for and make fun of you or put you down or make it seem like they're better than you for dealing with this thing. Or like I said, the people who want to point out that things are worse for other people. It's like there's always that community that always exists, and there is no limit. They have no barrier that stops them from continuing to pursue this, this, I don't know, like trying to make you feel shitty or, criticize you kind of thing. It's just, it blows me away.
Yeah, it's just kind of unreal that you're like, okay, but they literally they're not able to do anything besides survive and huddle together.
And that's what it's like. There's people too, because I think they posted something about how they, like with the Ruby episode, that they pushed it back, and I think what they said was it was something to do. I think Carrie tweeted about it, saying like it wasn't so much that like it wasn't done, but that they wanted to, since everyone who's like in the editing process and all that is going through a hard time, they just said like, don't worry about it, take care of yourself and figure out, like, stay warm, do what you have to do, and then we'll get back to the episode. Is the message, the way it came across to me whenever I read it.
Yeah, he said we're looking out for our people and we're not worried about the episode.
Yeah,
because I saw that. Yeah,
and that people, there was one person, because I think the reason I saw this is Carrie quote tweeted one reply in it, but it was a long thread of people going back and forth, and this person just like, and I didn't even read the whole thing, I just kind of just skimmed through it, but they just kept asking like, I just don't understand why it has to be delayed. It's like, I'm just asking a question, and all these people are like coming at me. And I feel like especially in the history of the internet, I'm just asking a question has started more fights than anything, like in a lot of different subjects.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who would just like will say something like really unbelievable or just downright like bullshit, and then like, well, I'm just asking a question. What's the problem? It's the same thing as the people who will say something shitty, and then when you're like okay, they get caught out on it, they immediately go, well, it's just a joke. God, you can't take a joke. It's like, no, it wasn't a joke because there was nothing funny about it. You were just being an asshole.
Being a shit.
And I feel like that crowd has found them now, and just to, I guess, keep everything like balanced and fair, there has been a lot of outpouring of support too, where people are like either encouraging or sending words of encouragement, and like, at the very bare minimum understanding that, hey, things won't be coming out, and be like, dude, that's fine, take care of yourself, do what you have to do. And I mean, I definitely I fall into that camp. Obviously, it'd be really weird after all that. I was like, and I think it's bullshit that they are not putting any content out, and Ruby was delayed. But no, I definitely, it's like, yeah, if you're going through a personal crisis when I mean, I lost power in my house, or I'm sorry, we lost our furnace, one winter, I don't know how many years ago, and you don't realize how cold your house can get and how little insulation does on its own without a heating system. We plugged in so many of electric heaters that we had in the house, and all it did was trip a breaker and heat up the house by about 5 degrees because the cold was because most of the time electric heaters, unless you have like a real big one, most of them they're supplemental heat, so they're not meant to be your only heating source. They're just meant to add on to what your existing heating system is.
Right.
And so I think I had 3 or 4 of them in my room, and I had to plug them into different outlets so that they were on different breakers.
That sounds like a fire hazard.
It wasn't. I mean, I think it was fine. I had blankets around them, and I slept with them on. I left them on when I was at work. I just poured water on one, but it's like we had a bunch of them plugged in, and it just did very little in fighting the heat. And that was a night that I slept in. I had 2 pairs of my pajama pants on. I think 2 pairs of socks. I had a long sleeve shirt on. I had a hoodie with the hood up, and I was under my covers, and that's how I slept at night. And I woke up and I stuck my head out, and I was like, "Fuck that!" And I put my head back. It was so cold. Like I was warm under the blanket, but trying to come out, I was so cold. I think luckily though, I think I worked at that time, so I was at work, and it was like I was warm there, and then eventually got fixed. But it's like even at that time, it's experiencing that. It's like I've grown up in Western Pennsylvania, which like I said, we get it's not the worst winter, but we do get a winter. We get a lot of snow. We get ice. We got hit with freezing rain just a couple days ago. It's several inches of snow. It's been getting down. It's supposed to get down to like 4 degrees tonight. So it's like we deal with cold and snow. It's supposed to get pretty cold in the next like 2 days, and then it's supposed to get up to be like not warmer, but like we're going into spring, like 40s or like high 30s, 40s. But I think when it's supposed to be almost 50. I know that's what people are tuning in for, our local weather report, but so like we deal with that. So it's like even growing up in the snow and the cold and everything, when we lost our heat, it wasn't like I was just like, well, like a Viking or something, like, yeah, this doesn't bother me, and I was just shirtless in my room. It's like, no, I was fucking freezing because it's cold.
Not having a good time, just holding onto the dogs. Just
no, this was pre-dogs. This was before I even knew Renee. This was back when I was still working at Lowe's. Back in those days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like I definitely know what it's like whenever when you don't have heat, especially if you're not used to dealing with it. It's like I completely empathize with everything like the struggle they're going through, and I know I've heard people even like kind of making fun of the situation in my personal life. People who just like hear like the headline, like Austin got snow and it shut everything down. But I've heard people like saying that. But knowing the story, knowing what people are going through, it's like, yeah, dude, take care of yourself. Don't worry about like trying to post a let's play or whatever you have to do. We did hit a weird moment where like because we always watch whatever Achievement Hunter posted for the day while we're eating most of the time. And Achievement Hunter I think has been I don't think they've missed an upload, or not that I'm aware of. I don't know about today, but as far as I know, they haven't missed an upload. But I was kind of like, when we were sitting, I was like, I don't know what we're gonna watch while we're eating, and
what are we gonna do?
Yeah, that's when we started watching WandaVision, and we'll be talking about WandaVision on Out in the Grapes this week because we blew through all 6 episodes last night. So, and I think there's a new one out today even. So we'll be watching that probably tonight. But
it should be a new one. Yeah, I think it's every Friday.
Yeah, so yeah, they're dealing with that, and I was completely like, I guess I wasn't completely shocked, but I was just like, I definitely was like, are you serious? Like, it caught me off guard that people were angry at them. It's like, so what? You can't drink water in your own house? I need Ruby, you fuck.
Right.
It's such an indefensible position.
Melting snow with whatever heat they do have to hopefully get drinking water.
Yeah, and I know certain people had like they had people staying at their house because they still had power. And then also what ended up happening is that I think yesterday on Thursday, Jeremy had he was Rooster Teeth's full streaming schedule. It was just him for the day. I don't even know what he played or anything. But since he is in Boston, is in Massachusetts, he was not affected by this. So he's the only person at Rooster Teeth who is not affected by the power outage. So he just streamed for the day, and he took over, which was a benefit that I'm sure they did not even consider whenever he moved up there months ago.
No, I wouldn't think so. But I mean, look at him now, number one.
I think it was Blaine who replied. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something about carrying this entire company on your fucking back or something. But yeah, that's the situation that's happening now. I assume, I'm assuming, because with certain people are actually getting some of their utilities back and everything. I'm guessing whenever this actually comes out, the situation will, well, it depends on when I edit it, because it might come out at midnight on Saturday. But depending, the situation may have improved, and hopefully by next week, I mean, things are getting better. But yeah, it's quite a situation, and it's quite a one to criticize people for. It's like watching someone's house get destroyed by a tornado and then criticizing them for living there. It's like, okay,
way to pick the location.
Yeah, so it's so weird. But we can actually we can move on to our what was going to be our headline kind of topic, but was knocked down for certain reasons, for kind of pressing matter. So and I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I will include a link to it at least, just so people can go to it. I'll put it in the description of our episode here. Oh, there we go. I got cut off in the way I shrank my window. But yeah, so RTX is canceled, but I mean, they're doing what they did last year, so it's not canceled fully. It's just the traditional RTX
in person.
Yeah, they canceled that one. Like I said, this is a long post about the details for badges and postponing, because I believe, if I remember correctly, the 2021 they allowed you to use that badge for 2021, I think, something like that. So there's a lot of pieces here that are they have to really figure out. Yeah, postpone credit refund options for RTX Austin 2020 attendees. So there's a lot of information in this post. I'll read the first kind of couple I guess paragraph for it, because everything else is sort of bullet pointed going forward. But it says, "Hi all, we know many of you have been wondering what 2021 holds for RTX. Well, we are bringing back RTX at Home. This year's virtual event will be July 8th through 17th, 2021. After serious discussion, we have made the decision to cancel this year's in-person RTX 2021. The health and safety of our staff, guardians, and community is our number one priority. Today, we sent an email to all current badge holders with the below information. If you had postponed your 2020 order to 2021 and did not receive the email, please contact RTX customer service at rtxevent@roosterteeth.com." And then, like I said, that's where it goes into more details about the postponements and refunds and badges and everything else. But I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm not exactly shocked by this. I was surprised initially, because I don't know. I just wasn't thinking about RTX. And when I saw, I was like, they did it already. And I was like, well, I guess it is February, and this is usually when they're ramping up for it. So I guess it made sense once I thought about it, but it did surprise me at first.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised, because people would, with vaccines becoming kind of available, people would probably, try to go to this without having, or what would they say to people? You can only come here if you have both vaccines and you've been clear for 14 days or whatever. What would be the stipulations?
Well, yeah, especially since they do it in July. And I know it's February right now, but July is not that far away in terms of an event. It's, with all the planning that goes into it and everything that they have to do, it's I don't know. It's just, there's a lot that they would have to get in place that like it'd be very hard to like cancel later on, like to get things like all this stuff in place while there's so much uncertainty still just doesn't make sense. Like, yes, the vaccines are rolling out, but there is different tiers and different people that are like getting it. And like, of course, with the news always just tries to scare everybody, but it's like all they keep talking about is like the new strains that are happening and stuff like that. So it's like, who knows what will happen with those and everything else. So it's like, there's just too much that's uncertain right now that it makes complete sense that they would just say, look, last year we kept postponing, kept pushing, trying to figure this out, like seeing what happens with it. Now we kind of know what the coronavirus is and how like it affects everything, and let's just not even like beat around the bush. Like we're just going straight online until like they're not even in their office yet, so it doesn't even make sense that they would. But we're not going to work together in an office where we can be tested. We're going to put you in a room with hundreds of thousands of people. It's like
right.
It doesn't make any sense that they would have done it in person this year.
It doesn't, but I'm sure that people are upset about it. But again, they're going to honor. I assume they're honoring the tickets again. And so like you're not losing, and you're not losing out. Besides, you can't go physically to Austin, Texas.
Yeah, because it even says all current badge holders are eligible to postpone to RTX Austin 2022. So they're already pushing the same thing they did before, is pushing it out to next year's event. And that way, if you bought a badge or anything, then I guess it would just apply then, as opposed to having to get a refund and go through and buy a new badge next year. So they're going to push it out again, and hopefully 2022 means we'll actually be in person, and they'll be able to bring RTX back to its full force. Because it's certainly it's been weird with like how just life has been for the last year. It's like, it'd be nice to get things back. It's nice. I want to hope that next year it's possible, and I'm pretty sure it will be. But who knows with this thing?
None of us.
I mean, that's why it's like I think I said a couple times, like I never would have. Last year, whenever they were talking about coronavirus, to me it was just another like, bird flu or swine flu or whatever. It was just like, oh, it's the next one that's like, it's supposed to be worse, but it just never really, it never really becomes like a bad thing. Or I shouldn't say it becomes a bad thing. It's obviously it's a bad thing, but like it doesn't do this, basically, is what I thought. It's like, oh, it's the next one, and then like there'll be certain people that'll be affected by it more, and that whole thing. Never would have guessed that a year later we'd still be talking about it and still be involved with it, and things would be in this like the situation they're in right now. But we are. But
we're here.
I'm hopeful that 2022 brings us in-person events again, because I truly believe that there's obviously going to be people that still have their reservations, like no question, but I really believe that once it's okay and like people feel safer about it, I think things are going to come back with a bang. I think there's going to be like live events. I don't think they're I mean, even look right now, there's still plenty of people that don't follow any kind of guidelines and they go out. So I think whenever people are given more of a green light, I think it's not going to stop that many people.
No.
I think we see places fill up.
The first like I'm gonna say it's just like Coachella or something like that, where it's like everyone's gonna go because like we haven't done anything in so long, or the first major concert or whatever.
Well, I know I've heard like there's people who've talked about like how like even when we've had our small get together, we're like amongst our friends and stuff, it's like there's like people who were there who were just like, oh, I've just missed like seeing people. And it's like you can tell it's like people are just itching to get back out there and kind of get together and go to a live show, go to comedy shows or whatever it is. And that's because I'm excited right now because I know I talked about it on here before, and I talked about it out in the grapes, but just the drive-in shows that I was going to, since the weather's gonna be warming up here the next month or so. It's like, oh, I might see more comedians coming through here because I want to go to as many of them as I can.
Yeah. I want to be invited.
Yeah, I'll think about inviting you. I'm not making any promises right now.
I mean, I was invited to one, then he got COVID.
Did. and maybe that'll be rescheduled or what have you. But it's definitely something that I think you should experience, because it's weird to see them basically in just the woods. Like it's just like basically where we grew up. It's very bizarre. But yeah, so RTX is our traditional RTX is canceled. We're going to RTX at home again. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't, there's not much else to really say other than it's expected. They're doing what they have to do. It's being safe, and they're not going to risk it when they don't even have people in the office. But we can kind of go through our next couple things, somewhat fast. So I mentioned that Fiona did a stream with Megan Thee Stallion.
The artist, like the singer.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it was for. It was on February 11th.
But how'd that come about?
I saw, I think it may have been Fiona tweet an article for it. Which again, I'll put this article that I'm reading right now, and I'll link it in the description for our podcast and for the YouTube video. But so this is how the article reads. It just says Megan Thee Stallion will compete in a live Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate on Twitch this Thursday, February 11th. That's obviously passed by now, but it said Megan will compete against Achievement Hunter's Fiona Nova during the stream, which kicks off at 7. And it goes through the details of like how to see it and everything. And then it's, I don't know. I'm trying to see, I don't know if it was for like a charity thing. I was trying to scroll through it. It just seems, I don't know. I just saw the article, and like reading through this, I don't see anything that says, exactly if it was to benefit anything or if she was just doing it for, just for fun, just to stream. So I'm not sure how it got set up. I was caught up, basically I found out almost the same way you just found out, which was, hey, this is happening. And I was like, oh, okay. That's, what a crazy, thing. Cause I mean, I pretty much say the same thing, every time something like this happens, where I said it's always cool when you see them kind of branch out and get attached to like a much larger entity or like a mainstream figure. Like, I didn't realize this at the time, but when I talked about Alfredo having Hunter Pence, the outfielder for the Giants, I think San Francisco Giants, and I was saying it's really cool when you see that connection happening. I didn't realize they've been friends for years. Didn't know that. I know that now.
Why would you?
Well, he talked about it on stream. That I think when, I might be misremembering this, but I think it's when Alfredo worked at IGN. He was friends with Hunter Pence's girlfriend or something, and that's how they met. And then they've just been friends ever since. And so he's done several streams with him now, but I didn't, at the time I didn't know they had a history like that. I thought it was just this is there's an athlete that is got into streaming, and Alfredo kind of got into into that circle, kind of was it Drake that streamed a couple years ago and did a stream with Ninja I don't know, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago at this point.
I have
it's
no
not that
idea.
long ago. It was something like that. It's I thought it was just a situation like that where this known person outside of video games went or got into streaming, and then Alfredo just kind of was included in there. Didn't know that they were actually friends way before that, but he's popped up a lot. Last stream he got really drunk and was very loud and was a menace the whole time. But which actually I realized too, it's become part of our routine to watch Alfredo streams on Saturday, because they play, he always gets a group together to play Among Us, but with everything going on weather-wise and their entire power system and everything being down, I don't think it's going to be happening this week, but they also have their new dog, Gabu, their corgi, which has been featured on the streams and on Twitter and everything else. He just laid her on the desk at one point and had the camera just facing down as she was just spread out laying there. But Yeah, so like no, I don't know how this thing came about. Like I said, this article it just basically talks about it talks about when it was happening and everything, and then like I guess Megan Thee Stallion's sort of fandom of Mortal Kombat, and then it talks about Mortal Kombat a little bit, and then it just says like here's the stream will be this time. So
Was
I
it
don't know.
also to promote the new movie?
I mean, it could have been. I'm kind of skimming through this article, but it didn't say anything about that. Because yeah, that trailer did just come out, but I assume because that's a Warner Brothers thing. So maybe through HBO Max it could have been because HBO Max, or yeah, because the movie's going to HBO Max. I think at the same. I think it's still going to theaters, but it's supposed to go to HBO Max the same day. So it could be. It's probably that's how it's all connected. But yeah,
It's all coming together.
Yeah, but still just a interesting like tidbit to mention that did happen, and I'm sure there's probably a video of it you could find online somewhere. Well, I guess since I mentioned HBO Max, I'll get into this one. This is also just kind of a quick one. I guess Rooster Teeth is producing a new animated show for HBO Max. It says a new cover TV series is headed to HBO Max with the creators of the comic. I've never heard of it. The cover TV. I've never heard of that.
Nope, I don't know what that is.
Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack attached. Variety reported today that the animated show was in development with Rooster Teeth Studios producing. So, don't know anything about it, but it sounds like this is going to be very similar to kind of like Transformers, because I'm pretty sure they produced that one, I believe. But it sounds similar to that. They're just going to be the producers on it, and they'll have a hand in it. But since it just got announced, it'd probably be a little while before we see more details about, more about the show and everything. I mean, I'm sure people who are fans of that cover TV already know what's what, but I have never heard of it. So see what happens. I still have yet to watch Transformers. Every time we talk about it, I've said I intend on watching it, but I just don't think about it when I'm looking for something to watch.
Well, now you got no new streams, so watch Transformers.
Well, I mean, I could, but WandaVision's out, so I got priorities right now, and I'm still being a roller coaster magnate and Planet Coaster. So I have a long to-do list. I have to get my profits up. They're complaining about food. It's a whole thing. But that'll be coming at some point. I don't know exactly when. But the thing I mentioned earlier about Bruce and Lawrence, the reason I was saying it's kind of like a jokey, kind of funny thing, is that Bruce and Lawrence have decided, which they kind of done a like Twitch podcast for a while, where it's always like Bruce and Lawrence talk to the internet, or like the one I see right now is Bruce, Lawrence, and Kraken talk to the internet, and it's always been like on Bruce's. I think it probably went to all their channels, but I always see it on Bruce's channel. But now they're doing they have their own YouTube channel where they're talking about gaming news again, like Inside Gaming, but it's not Inside Gaming. This is called Inside Games. It's Inside Games about gaming news. So they are back into the swing of talking about gaming news, and really, I mean, it does make you wonder what happened kind of behind the scenes with Inside Gaming and Funhouse and everything, since they both left pretty close to each other. And I even remember Bruce saying that if it wasn't, or someone asked him if Rooster Teeth wasn't purchased by, like whatever, Otter Media or whatever, if he would still work there. And he said, I don't know, that's an interesting question. Like, he didn't say just outright that had nothing to do with it. He was kind of like, it seemed like that had an impact on it. Now, who knows what the reasoning was. He has never said anything bad about anybody there, or like anything critical that I've ever heard. He's always been very, very positive, and still like he's been on Alfredo's streams. Like it's not like there was like a big falling out or anything. But it does make you wonder, since they left Inside Gaming where they talked about gaming news, and now they're doing Inside Games talking about gaming news. It does make you wonder a little bit, but it literally does seem like it's going to be Inside Gaming again, but just with those two, and maybe it'll expand. And watch, they'll bring in Spool and Joel, and they'll bring in like all the people who have left over the years. But no, so that came up, and I was like, I thought it was a joke that they were calling it Inside Games, but they were actually calling it Inside Games, and I was like, I want to be mad, but that is funny.
It's just different enough where they won't get in trouble.
And I don't know if it's actually on their channel. It was like, what I saw was like a little announcement video. I don't know, maybe it was a part of a longer video. I'm not sure, but still it made me laugh. And we can end on this, because before Austin was hit with a snowstorm, and before RTX was canceled and everything, the big thing that everyone kept talking about was lasagna. And I don't know if you've seen this at all, if you have any awareness of lasagna or what I'm about to say.
Here's what I know. Is it Barbara and Eric are arguing over this?
I'll be honest, I don't even know how it started. I think it was from the podcast.
It's from the podcast. That's what I've gathered, but they're arguing about stacking it, right?
Yes. So what happened, and Alton Brown has chimed in, the Food Network personality. Stouffer's, who makes a microwave like oven lasagna, weighed in on this. It became a thing on Twitter where people were arguing about it for a while.
They made shirts about it.
They did. And that's also ridiculous, but also very funny. And the argument, what it was, is if you made two different things of lasagna and you put them one on top of the other one, do you now have one lasagna or do you have two lasagna? And that is the whole argument.
But if
it's like the dress thing over again.
If it's the same recipe, to me it's one lasagna.
It feels very one lasagna to me as well, because it's just a layered dish. And
Unless you did like a veggie one and like a meat one, but then stacking them would negate the whole point of that. But that'd be two lasagnas stacked.
Yeah, to me, it's like, since lasagna is just a layered like noodle, like with cheese and then sauce, or like
one of the best.
Whatever, it's up
layered.
There. To me, it's like lasagna is the amount of layers it is based on the dish you have available. Like, to make an actual a lasagna that was the size of two would require an incredibly large dish, like just a pan to put it in.
You need, a custom built, deep as hell dish, which I'd be okay with. Like, seeing a lasagna cube, I'd be okay with that.
You would need to take out all the racks in your oven, because it would barely fit. And it would look like something that you like transport fish in, like where you like relocate fish out of like a pond or something. It'd be huge. So I was like, if you had that possibility, I mean, maybe it has something to do with like the thickness, and it won't cook properly, or there's no way to cook it properly if it's too, whatever it is. The science of cooking. But yeah, I was very much one lasagna. I think the only thing that to me makes it two is the fact that you would have, theoretically anyway, you would have two layers of noodles, which I don't think happens. It's always just a layer of noodles, but the top and bottom, I mean, unless you put sauce on top of the lasagna, which I know a lot of times people do, then it would actually make it one again. Because to me, I was like, it's very one to me.
Every lasagna that I have is topped with sauce and then more cheese. Cheese is always the top.
Well, it's like cheese a lot of times is the top, or like it'll have like, if you've, a lot of times I've had it, it's been like meat sauce will be like the top layer, and then it's like baked in there, and I don't know. I was like, because I was thinking too, it's like, and I think James Willems posted a picture of a wedding cake, which has, a wedding cake has like the cake layer, but then they put like icing on the cake layer, and it was like a real big one. And he said, I can't wait to eat these 7 cakes or something. And I was just like, yeah. And I was also thinking, like, I don't consider the Big Mac as 2 sandwiches because there's a bun in the middle.
No,
like,
it's just a Big Mac.
Yeah, or like a double cheeseburger. It's like, to me, it just made 1, and people were very passionate about it being 2. Mainly Blaine. Blaine was very passionate about it being 2.
We'll buy the one lasagna t-shirts just so we have our stand.
Oh, it was really funny that they put up those shirts. We still have to make our Bigfoot shirt. I really want to get on designing that thing, which it's be very easy to find if you don't know what I'm talking about. There are on the grapes that says Bigfoot is not from Ohio is what I'm referencing. But
I mean, that could be our 50th episode. Make stickers of that Bigfoot.
I would, yeah, born and raised. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention that too. So, right now we are sitting very close to hitting 50 subscribers on YouTube. I'm just looking at our most recent numbers, and it's like right now we have 46, so we're very close. And I was trying to think of like what we could do to, I don't know, just like something kind of special if we hit 50 subscribers on YouTube. So what I was thinking was that if we hit 50 subscribers, then what we'll do is we'll actually do our first video Out in the Grapes episode. We'll have to figure out if we get hit 50 subscribers by like say Monday, then it'll probably be too late to do it for this week's Out in the Grapes, just because we have to kind of shoot differently if we're going to do it that way. So if we do hit it before Wednesday, then it'll probably be next week's Out in the Grapes. So, two Out in the Grapes episodes from now. So that's the plan right now if we get up there. So, it's our first kind of, maybe not our first milestone, but it's our first big milestone on YouTube, in terms of subscribers, because, we had one video that really shot our subscribers up, through, for us, it multiplied them by several times. So, right. It was a big one. And we've been, we pulled in a couple over the last couple, probably over the week. So if that happens, then you will get your first Out in the Grapes video, which I know everyone's been clamoring for.
Yeah,
but,
the thing no one asked for. Yeah. But we'll do it just for you.
Yeah, you didn't have to ask. We knew this is what you wanted. But just to do something kind of, I guess, special for, just for the occasion, I guess. So, I think that's it, Doug. I don't have anything else. We both are on team one lasagna, so there is no debate that can happen if we're just in agreement.
If we were, yeah.
So,
but we're like an old married couple. We see a lot of things eye to eye.
Yeah, we grew together. We've grown old together. We have a deep love for each other and a lot of respect. And a lasagna will not tear that apart.
No, it will be eaten, but
that's once again a sentence I never thought I would say. Is a lasagna will not tear us apart. But
like that. Who's it? The Joy Division love will tear us apart.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I think it's the Joy Division. They have that one shirt we can make a lasagna shirt out of.
Yes, find as many designs as we can rip off. That'd be helpful.
Right. I'll send it to you right now. Well, but anyway, let's sign off and I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about our business ideas off air. But thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for coming back for another episode. If you were just listening to this, then on through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or however you listen to podcasts, you can watch this episode on YouTube. I put up on screen the things that I'm reading and talking about, so you can see it, whether it be screenshots or articles, what have you. You can watch it there. But if you are watching this on YouTube, you can also download this podcast and take us with you. Listen to us while you're driving to work or at work or in school or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. So yeah, find us there and enjoy us there. And jazz hands, and
we'll with jazz hands.
I broke both my hands.
All right,
just point at all 10 of your fingers. Which spell? As you hit your microphone arm. Thank you for listening. Everybody. Thank you for subscribing.
You're all great.
And we will see you in 2 weeks for RT Talk, but hopefully before that, in Out in the Grapes, if we hit that 50, the big 5-0. So thank you, and good night.
Goodbye.
You can listen to this anywhere.